part two, we will be continuing our conversation with Ms. Jan Edgar Langbein, who is CEO of Genesis Women's Shelter. If you haven't watched part one already, please check it out. And that's something I really loved about Genesis, because at Genesis you do transitional living and you do counseling, and so you kind of help the women become independent in the future, and I really, really love that about Genesis.
Absolutely. The 6-week stay or 4 weeks to 6 week stay at the shelter, we know that's not long enough. I mean, I can't stay on a diet for 6 weeks. I don't think I could learn French in 6 weeks. But in addition to our emergency shelter, which is like an emergency room of a hospital, then we also have on our safe campus an apartment complex where families can go there for a year. And that's where we can get them protective orders. They can get ESL or GEDs, or we had a lady there one time who was a resident at UT Southwestern. And literally she was able to finish her residency by going into the transitional housing, as opposed to going back to him. He wanted her to quit. He was tracking her through her GPS. I mean, it was just a mess.
Wow.
But this woman is a doctor today somewhere.
Wow.
Because she was able to finish that residency while at Genesis Women's Shelter. So I want the club to know that, you know, I think it's easy for us to think it happens to a poor, uneducated woman living in a poor section of town that's nowhere near mine. But yeah, absolutely, we call it an equal opportunity epidemic. There's no boundaries. These women are educated. We have lawyers, doctors, pastors, women pastors who have been incredibly beaten. And then the ones we see at the shelter are probably those with the least resources, because I don't think anybody wakes up and says, hey, I want to go to a shelter today. If you have resources, you're more likely to come to our non-residential office and get an apartment on your own, or have the financial resources if he'll let you have access to them. That's a lot of the problem. Is if she is a highly paid lawyer, well, her paycheck more than likely is going into his bank account. Right? So the financial compensatory power can be more effective than a lock and a key. So it's whatever his choice of weapon, that's what keeps her in that relationship.
Okay.
Or traps her in that relationship. Yeah.
That's interesting. I never thought about it that way, that they kind of trap them, you know? It's like,
in so many ways. In so many ways. It literally, we used to think domestic violence was a punch, a black eye, a split lip. But we also know the verbal and the emotional abuse can be as deadly. As I said, the compensatory power, keeping all the money, the house is in his name, the cars are in his name. She has no out. It may be sexual abuse that keeps her there. Another thing is digital abuse. We see this more with teens, to where, oh, if you'll love me, you'll let me take these pictures, right? Anybody who says that to you, run as fast as you can, right?
yeah.
Do not do this, because they don't go away. Whatever you see Snapchat's all about, it's there forever, and he can hold that over your head. Like, fine, I'll send this to all your girls, all your girlfriends. I'll send it to the whole student body, saying you're such a whore, you know?
Yeah.
So digital abuse, spiritual abuse, very important to me. And if he might say, you know, if you go to church or if you tell anybody, then I'm going to tell them what you've done. And by the way, I have this video and you have no money anyway. And the kids, of course, there are lots of reasons she stays. He will put on a coat and a tie and walk into court and say, I'm an unfit mother and I lose my children. We wouldn't think anybody any judge would give custody of children to somebody who was a rapist or a criminal, but it happens every single day. So any of your club listening who's going into law, we want you to be aware of the manipulation in court. We want you to be a prosecutor and hold these guys accountable. You know, Tisa, that's my thing. Wherever you go, I don't expect you to all be CEO of Genesis Women's Shelter, because I'm not going anywhere, right? But wherever you do go, if you are an entertain and take those proceeds and give it to the local shelter. If you are in design and retail, collect clothes for women and children, because they walk away with nothing. If you are in the medical profession, have a thing where you sign in saying, does somebody you love hurt you? I mean, everybody can do what they can with what they have, however big or small it is.
I think that goes along with just kind of keeping your eyes open, watching out for your coworkers, your classmates. Do you think COVID-19 has made this worse because people have been trapped in their houses?
No doubt about it.
Okay.
COVID is hard on all of us,
Mhm.
right? But for a woman who lives with abuse, being quarantined with her abuser keeps her from going anywhere,
Mhm.
keeps her from calling the shelter. Even if she's already a client of ours, she cannot reach out to us. We had even set up like a HIPAA compliant
Mhm.
Zoom line where we could do groups, group counseling or individual counseling, but they can't even do that if he's in the house. Another thing we have found is that he will use COVID as a choice of weapon. For example, we've heard stories of he won't let her wear a mask to go to the grocery store, or he will cough in her face, or there was a homicide suicide up in Illinois, I think a couple of months ago, where
Mhm.
he accused her, like a lot of times it'll be, you were cheating on me and that's why, I had to do this. But this is, he accused her of infecting him, so he killed her and killed himself.
Oh
I mean,
my
they weren't
goodness.
infected. They weren't infected. So
Oh.
to use something like COVID, that just adds one more tool in his toolbox of abuse. I never cease to be amazed at how one person can hurt another. It's pretty sad.
It really is. So I was wondering, in Genesis, do you have a school where children can go when they can't go to the regular schools?
We do. We have the Genesis, it's called the Simmons School, and that's because of a funder that we had. But we recognized early on that kids did need to go to school by law. And if we left them in their own school, dad could actually go up to school, say they had a dentist appointment, check
Mhm.
them out, and then mom didn't see the kids again. So we would end up doing the school in whose district we are at Genesis, but we also found that dad would then just go through all the school listings, call every single one and say, are the Langbein girls there? Are the Langbein girls there? And when the principal said, yeah, they're here, he could then go there and check them out for that, you know, not a dentist appointment, and they wouldn't see their kids would be basically snatched out of school. And at the time they come to us, there are no custody orders, there is no protective order, and so the school has to do that, right, to a biological parent. And so we decided to put school on site and protect those kids in the short time that they're in the shelter, protect them in a safe place. And it is a phenomenal, it's so cool. I can't wait for you to see it. It's like, is a one-room electronic schoolhouse. So I have teachers who, because we never know, is it going to be a first, sixth, and ninth grader? Is it going to be two preschoolers and a non-English speaking first grader and a fifth grader? We never know what's coming in and what's going out, right? So my faculty stands ready to teach. If they're doing mammal habitats, they teach it at all different levels. And so they'll kind of divide up the kids, and they're doing different programs on the computer. We have one of those Promethean boards, one of those smart boards. Um, so it just works out for the kids who are there. And it's also pretty great because kids who come to our shelter, they've experienced trauma that no other kids have, right? And so they're on edge. They even talk, all our kids who come, we talk about the brain development. We talk about how, as the brain is formed, your brain stem does this, and your, base of your brain does that. And at the very front is your prefrontal cortex. Well, when a child or anybody is scared, my kids call it, I flip my lid, and they're operating out of their amygdala. And they can tell you in a classroom, my amygdala is acting a little crazy today, so we have a stop and think. There is no corporal punishment at Genesis. To us, hitting your child for not eating green beans is no different than dad hitting mom for fixing green beans. And
Yeah.
so we don't do timeout. That's shameful. We don't send you to a principal's office, who I guess would be me, but we don't do that either. We have a place where they can stop and think. And I thought at first, when it was first presented to me, that it would be like, oh my gosh, all the kids are going to be over there playing with those toys. But it's not. They go for a couple of minutes, they feel better. And our gift to DISD or PISD or something is, wherever they end up going next, is a child who will walk down the hall, and when somebody bumps into him, he won't punch him in the face. We talk about mindfulness. We talk about deep breathing. We have these toys that are, like lava lamp sand things that are calm down toys and tools to where this school is special. It's called trauma informed. We recognize the trauma that these kids have experienced. So from everything from the way we answered the phone when mom called us, to the way we rock his younger baby sister in the nursery, to his experience in the classroom, it is all trauma informed, which means we don't ask what's wrong with you. We say what's happened to you, and then we walk beside them in how they're processing that.
Okay, so I was wondering, with these kids, they obviously wouldn't be able to come to the school now because no one's in school, but
No, my shelter kids are.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
my residential kiddos are in school right now. We do in summer kind of a summer enrichment, not
Mhm.
kind of. We do a summer enrichment where they may study something, and then typically say they're studying mammals, and then we could go to the zoo and see giraffes or something.
Okay.
But unfortunately, the go to the zoo is not possible
Yeah.
right now. But we can, even at the time where we couldn't operate our school,
Mhm.
we can do virtual learning like you all have done.
Okay.
Make sure they have laptops while they're in their apartments. My teacher faculty is down the hall doing it. They have resources online to math sheets and fun games that help them learn reading and adding and all the things. So no, we don't give up on these kiddos for sure.
Amazing.
But teaching them anything, teaching them how to play a guitar, teaching them how to, we had a young man who actually, his name is Arturo Torres,
Mhm.
and he used to live at Genesis
Mhm.
years ago. And with his mom, he and his, I believe, a sister came to Genesis. And I don't remember him, and I didn't know anything about him because we have so many that come, hundreds that come
Mhm.
and go. But I was reading, this is about 3 or 4 years ago, I read in the newspaper, the Dallas Morning News, they were talking about Arturo Torres, who is an artist and an illustrator, and he had illustrated kind of like superhero books for a New York Times best-selling book, and they were about to launch their second book, and it talked about, he's from Dallas, and he decided to move back he could live in New York, he's making a lot of money, but he decided to come back to Dallas because he wanted to make a difference in his neighborhood. He said, I grew up in a poor neighborhood. On each side of me were gangs fighting. And I want to show kids that they don't have to be in a gang
Mhm.
to survive or make a good life kind of thing. Then at the very end of it, he said, why does this, why is this important? He said, when I was 8, my mother and I went to a place called Genesis Women's Shelter. Oh no, they asked him, how did you get started in art? That was the question. How
Okay.
did you get started in art? Why is art important to you? And he
Uh-huh.
said, when I went to Genesis at 8 years old on Friday, which is Toy Day,
Mhm.
the advocate gave me an art kit. I'm sorry, what? The advocate gave him an art kit? Like, why did we have one? Why did we have one and gave it to him and not to you and him a truck? I mean,
Mhm.
such a God thing, right? So
Yeah.
it was from that art kit that he began drawing and, has made his living out of
Yeah.
this. Well, he comes down to the shelter. This was the coolest. He's a big old guy, right? Got some tattoos. He's just a big old guy from West Dallas. And he comes down with his wife and this precious baby son of his who he loves more than
Uh-huh.
life. And he goes into the classroom, right? And
Mhm.
he talks to them about art and how to draw a picture. And, they were like, well, I don't know how to draw. And he's like, well, let's just try. You make a mark on the Promethean board, and then he'd turn it into a giraffe or something, or an elephant or something. I mean, they were fascinated. He brought art that he had drawn of sports figures, which they loved,
Yeah.
basketball heroes, which those little boys liked. Anyway, it's just, he's a hero to them. And
Mhm.
it shouldn't be that we only get to applaud guys who, at against all odds, turned into a good man, right? But we definitely need to. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, look at the impact it had on him. Like,
Absolutely. What
wow.
Genesis had on him. There's no doubt about it. So,
And I was also wondering, as someone who is a leader and role model for young women like me who also want to reach out and help others, how do you stay positive when dealing with various incidents that can be emotionally taxing on you?
that's an interesting question. I think it's different for every single person. Like
Mhm.
when we are interviewing somebody for a job, a lot of times one of my social workers will ask the applicant, what do you do to self-care? Well, you know what? that's so, I don't know, it's kind of cheesy to me because I'm like, I don't care how you self-care. I hope you do it. I hope you do. But self-care for me, I don't run, I don't needlepoint. I hope people who need it do it. I
Mhm.
self-care by thinking up the next thing. I get so excited about, like I say, what do we do about deaf women? How do we address women in the African American community who are too afraid to call the police? Or how do we, come up with the latest cutting edge training at Conference on Crimes Against Women? So that gins me. I hop out of bed every morning and have for 30 years thinking, well, hop is probably not the right word, but thinking of how can we make a difference, right? Getting men involved, getting teens involved, printing brochures, which I hope you will go to our website and look at, the club can download Teen Dating Violence, Get the Facts. That's a really good piece that's on there under resources. It's kind of got to test your relationship. Is it a healthy relationship on there that I would love to see all your club members take
Yeah.
now and then also take with them to college. But how do you stay positive? I guess also I'm fed by the people that work at Genesis. I
Right.
am fed by Amy Ridings, with whom you
Yeah.
work. She wants to get the word out. Brilliant young communication marketing person, PR person. She
Mhm.
chose to PR and market this issue because it's the leading cause of injury to women in the United States, right? And so everybody who comes to me, whether your background is corporate, whether your background is finance and banking, whatever it is, you have the one common thread is they have to have a fire in their belly to end violence against women and children. So I'm fed by them. I am fed by them. And yeah, so.
So helping these women and children, it just gives you that passion. Like it doesn't even feel like a job, right?
It doesn't feel like a job. I have a job because someone was hit last night. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I am like the luckiest person to get to go.
Right.
I tell the staff, don't ever lose sight of what courage it took for that woman. I mean, how can it be hard for me, right?
Exactly.
Look how hard it was for her. And I surround myself with people who jump out of bed and think of those same new ideas. What about this, Jan? And if they don't, it's a requirement. It's a job requirement. Now, some of them may be goofy.
So I was wondering, as a mother of two daughters, how have you managed to maintain that balance between work, family, volunteering, and have they volunteered as well in the
Oh,
shelter?
yes. Oh, yes. Having daughters has been the biggest privilege in my life. And I didn't wait until I was 40 and started working at Genesis to start talking about this. I realized, or however old they were, I realized that I wanted to raise strong women.
Right.
And I took a lot of opportunity, particularly in the car before they could drive. I remember driving down Central one time and there was this big ad for Coors beer, right? And it didn't say anything about Coors beer. It just had a set of twins who were leaning kind of on a motorcycle in bikinis and they were kind of untying their bikini tops. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, just said out loud, look at that thing. It doesn't say anything about beer. I guess it means if you show men this ad that they somehow think I'll buy that beer and I can see boobs. I don't know I can't imagine what the disconnect is there. But anyway, I was in the car and I was just like, oh my gosh. And both of them in unison said, we know it's objectification of women, it's misogynistic. And I'm like, yes, it is. Absolutely. So at that point, I realized I'd been talking about it a lot. They had been down at the shelter a lot where some of those kids look just like them. And so I've raised two women to be, my sons-in-law, well, they wouldn't, but if they did, it wouldn't be more than one time, right? Plus, I would be on the road to Houston anyway. So to bring those daughters and granddaughters home. So I think it's an incredible opportunity to not just be a role model, but what you were talking about is a work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
My life is my work.
Yeah.
And my family. But there is no this and that. Those are so blended that it's not a problem for me to balance. It's just one thing. I do this and I do that. I'm sure there were times that I thought, well, I'm not doing any of these well. So, yes.
I was volunteering at Plano Presbyterian Hospital,
Yes.
and I remember like I would go for my 4-hour shift, and I would just enjoy it so much. That's how long I'd be there.
That's how you know you have found that fire in your belly. That's how you know I lose track of time all the time. And that just shows you that you enjoy what you're doing. Do not go into a profession you don't enjoy. It's never going to be enough money. It's never going to be enough hours. I mean, find what you can. Now, granted, I didn't know it at your age. I didn't know anything at your age. I'm so impressed with you.
I don't know anything.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do, my friend. But to be able to find it and then latch onto it and then have these amazing adventures. And I'm not through yet. I'm writing a book. I don't know when, but I'm going to, right?
I'll buy it. Let me know as soon, and I'll get all my family members to buy a copy.
Thank you. Thank you. I may have to get Amy's help on that.
I've so enjoyed talking to you today. I'm just really grateful that you took the time out of your day.
Of course. Anytime.
Thank you to Ms. Ridings for organizing and helping me schedule this, because she's been so amazing with helping me get everything scheduled.
Yes, I know it. I know it. We're happy to partner with you any way we can, okay?
I truly appreciate it, and I hope that soon I'll be able to come and volunteer, meet you and Ms. Ridings in person.
Absolutely.
And
And Laura Bush. Don't forget Laura Bush.
Definitely.
Right.
Thank you for your
Now
time.
I'm just showing off. What am I talking about? I'm just showing off.
You should be
Thanks so
showing.
much. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Langbein, for joining me today for our Fireside Chat. It was so inspiring to hear about your experience and your advice. I truly believe this was a great way to spend our afternoon. And thank you to those of you watching for listening to our Fireside Chat today. Please look out for more episodes and don't forget to post your comments.